Welcome to the Four Seasons. I'm your host Ken Johnson, and today we rack. Tiny bubbles make up me happy. Tiny bubbles. As we discussed in the last video, we now have confirmation of yeast activity. The balloons are risen up now and puffed up. That's from the CO2 being released as the yeast forms alcohol and heat. Because as we talked about, three things are created from the fermentation process. That's heat, CO2, and alcohol. So as you can see, even though I filtered out a lot of this, there's still a bunch of fluff that came up as a part of this process, and that's to be expected. Eventually all that will settle to the bottom with the racking system that we're going to employ. What we have here is an example of why you should have the same, what they call the beginner fluid is what they call must. So in wine making it's called must, in beer making it's called wort, and in making distilled spirits it's called a wash. So here I did not use the same must, and so that means that I have one bottle of wine that is finished. You can see the balloon and it's done, and the other one is not. Now I'm going to make a hypothesis that you should be able to test. When you do this, make it all the same. And I'm going to say that your half gallon is still going to do this. Why is this? Well, because your container actually will change the fermentation. And I've actually done this. I have had the same ingredients I'll make a big large container and pour them into different containers, and I get a different fermentation. So anywho, this is the 9th of December, and so this one, this gallon one, should be finishing up in the next few days. When it's done, we'll go ahead and go to the next step. But I wanted you to see how it's progressing along. See, today is December 13th, around December 11th, December 12th, the other balloon fell. So now it's time for us to take the next step in this process. So first thing that we need to do is cut this right here. We got to cut two of them, so got that. Alright, now this is done, but the problem is, sorry about that, my dogs are outside causing a mess. I left them inside and they're making more of a noise than they were outside. So now they all beside me right now trying to play. But as I was saying, I've got to take the balloons off of this. It's fermented, and apologize for the shaking camera as well. It's fermented, but the problem is, this is a very high tolerance yeast, and yeast don't know how to read. So they don't know when they have met the scientific threshold for their tolerance. Now, if you look in here, there's some nasty stuff in here. And I really don't want to get that into my process of racking. So I'm going to use a siphon first to get it into the bowl. Now, of course, my siphon is not working right because I'm doing everything by myself. Alright, so this is just a auto siphon. It is nothing special. Any siphon would work. It's been in sanitizer, so you can see the water. I'm going to get that out real quick, shake that out. And I'm trying to avoid, so I'm going down about halfway, and the rest goes right here. And I'm going to get a container right here to put this on. When you're siphoning, it does good to have something at a higher level. So you may not be able to see that the best in the world, but I've got to, let's see here. Yeah, it's almost impossible to see, but it's on a container. Bucket, anything will work. It doesn't have to be anything special. I'm going to try not to get a lot of this. It'll take a few pumps. Get this. It needs to be lower than the liquid I'm. Now we got something. Now it's going. My hand's been sanitized. Everything's been sanitized. So now it's just a matter of letting this stuff do its thing. Again, I apologize for the dogs. But basically we're just going to let this go ahead and pump out. So there'll be some people that they be criticizing me because I used a rubber balloon, and they're also going to criticize me because I'm probably going to stabilize this with some potassium sulfate or sorbate. You know, rubber balloons, they have been around for almost 200 years, 198 years, more or less. Potassium sorbate's been around almost as long. This is the age information. You know, if a lot of these people talk in fear, you know, they talk about, well, you don't know what this is. You don't know this. I don't trust this. And they talk about feelings and fear a lot. But rarely, if ever, do they deal in facts. And in 200 years, I have not seen one child, one home brewer that uses balloon method, anybody die, get sick, be hospitalized, or whatever due to a toy balloon. And I have not seen one single lawsuit, especially in our litigious society. Not one lawsuit, one medical study, nothing showing anything about potassium sorbate. So a lot of the worries that are espoused by all these experts or so-called experts, I don't have much faith in what they're doing because they really don't give any facts. So I'm going to switch this out now and go to the other. There we go. Put this on here. Put midways. Give it a few pumps. There we go. That's the main thing. You got to have height. You got to have something put it on that has height. But yeah, I don't see any reason for any of their claims other than fear. And I just refuse to address issues of fear without any type of science, any studies, anything. And really, in the absence of all that, I'm going to say it's safe. I could be wrong. There could be a massive breakthrough study linking toy balloons to cancer in children and adults. There might be some type of new study that links potassium sorbate to cancer in people that drink alcohol. But in 200 years, it hadn't happened yet. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing earth-shattering. Been kind of silent. So I'm going to go with that. We're just going to let this continue to pour out some. Alright, this is getting to about the end. I'm about to stop it in just a minute and we'll take out the hose. Okay, so what I've done is really what they call marrying the wines. And so I'm going to take a little sip out of this, not much, and I'm going to taste it. Right now it's cloudy. There's some floaters and garbage in there, but we're going to take care of that in a minute. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to make sure that this actually tastes somewhat drinkable and see what I need to do to adjust the flavors. As I suspected, the sugars have all been fermented out. This is a dry wine. Oh my God, it's tart. It's dry. So, the first thing that I need to do now is I need to get my spoon. And I'm going to measure out approximately 1 teaspoon of potassium sorbate. So this is a half teaspoon, so I gotta do 2. Is roughly about 1.5 gallons, more or less. And the instructions say a half teaspoon per gallon. So this right here will be more than enough. Some people don't like to use this, but again, like I said, there's no need to worry about it. It's been around for 200 years. The French developed it. There's really no need to worry about that. But you want to just kind of stir it, and everybody freaks out about this part because they're like, you're oxidating the wine. Not really, I'm off-gassing. I'm using a champagne yeast that had a ton, and I mean a ton, of carbon dioxide. There's no need to worry about oxidation at this point because I'm not stirring it up a lot. And so I really am not in the danger zone. People worry too much about danger zones of oxidation. I mean, it can happen. It's a real thing. I'll do an episode showing oxidation and why you do it and why you don't do it. But I'm going to give this about 2.5 cups of sugar. I'm going to try that and see how it tastes. If it tastes good, we'll go to the next step. If it don't taste good, guess what? We will continue adjusting until it tastes good. That is the beauty of home brewing. Now, it'll take a while for me to stir because one, I don't really want to oxidize, but two, see all those crystals? I've got to get them dissolved. So I'll be with you in a minute. Alright, so this is now kind of stirred out. Reason why I do potassium sorbate instead of other methods. One, I didn't take a reading to see what the alcohol and sugar levels were to begin with. I don't do that. And really and truly, yeast can't read, so you can't trust them. The potassium sorbate does not kill the yeast, but it stops the yeast from eating. You can do what they call a pasteurization. It is not true pasteurization. All you're doing is heating up to yeast to a point it dies. But as a lot of the people, they're experts, normally do, they talk about, oh, don't heat up this, don't heat up that, because they don't want you to hurt the flavors. And then they talk about pasteurization, which kills flavors. So I don't want to pasteurize it and heat it up to kill any flavors I developed. And so really potassium sorbate seemed the easiest and best method to use. Otherwise I would use a different method if one existed. So I'm going to just taste this right now. And that is perfect. That is ideal. That's got just enough sharpness, but just enough sweetness. I could do another half cup. I may do another half cup because that does have a strong cranberry taste. So that makes 3 cups total of sugar that I'm pouring in. And I'm going to stir this some more. This is the reason why we taste. You can always add, but it's hard to take out. So that's the reason why I only did 2.5. I kind of figured I was going to do 3, but now I know. Alright, just poured myself another glass. Let's taste it and see how it tastes. Oh yeah, that's on the money right there. So 3 cups of sugar did it. And this right here almost tastes like a cranberry juice right now. It's deceptive, it even has alcohol, which is kind of what I was wanting. So the next step in this, I'm going to be racking this off into some bottles to do, they call it the secondary ferment. It's not a ferment. This is really racking. This is where I'm allowing all the sediment and garbage to settle out and the flavors to meld a little bit. And so what I'll do is I'll put it in the bottles, and then after I put it in the bottles, I'll put it in my refrigerator. So you'll see that in just a moment. Okay, so I am going to change things up a little bit. I want to add some flavors. So in each one of these jugs, I'm going to add 1 cinnamon stick, and then to that, I'm going to add 20 cut grapes, 4 allspice berries, and 2 cloves. And that's in each barrel. So each one is going to be a little less than 2 gallons of fluid now. So we'll split it up. But I wanted to put the grapes in there, or the raisins, not grapes, but raisins. The reason why I want to put the raisins in there is for some tannins and to give it some more wine-like notes, so it don't just taste like a cranberry juice. I don't want that. So that'll give it some depth of flavor and make it taste more aged than what it is. And then these mulling notes are just traditional spices. So then I'll add in my funnel. I'm going to do the same thing for the other I've got my little cheesecloth right here. So let me go ahead and prep the other jug and we'll get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a scoop and just slowly spoon it in. While I'm doing this, a lot of people will be upset because I put the sorbitol or potassium sorbate in this jug here with my wine. But you know, it's funny, we don't mind putting clove, we don't mind putting black pepper, we don't mind putting all these seasonings in it. They say, oh, it might be dangerous, it impedes the growth of the yeast. Imagine what it's doing to you. Well, we put all sorts of spices in our food all the time because bugs, it kills bugs. I mean, that you can't really ferment very much with clove because it's antimicrobial. So what are they trying to say? I mean, think of it this way. Chickens, the female decides who's going to be male and female. Humans, we do. Every creature on earth is different. You know, we may think we're all the same, but we're not. I mean, we've been fed a bunch of lies by science that says everything came from each other, but when you actually look at the genetics, it's not true. We may share something in common, but we're actually very fundamentally different. So I don't worry about these things, and you shouldn't either. So as I said, I'm evenly dispersing this fluid between the two. I'm counting the number of ladles I'm doing so that it's just as even as I can be. And I'll continue this on, and I'll see you when everything's done. Okay, so we got a little over 2 half-gallon jugs. I've got them marked. They say Christmas on them. And so what I'm going to do now is put them in the fridge. They're going to sit as long as I can let them sit. And then right before Christmas, we'll bottle them off. One will be used at Christmas, and another one I'll let set for a year so we compare and contrast. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more content. Thank you. So after just 2 days of cold racking this, or what they call cold crash sometimes, there's a bunch of names for it. But basically just putting it in the refrigerator and letting it sit, the clarity of this is phenomenal. It's already fell out, it's cleared out, it's done basically what it would take months to do, just a matter of 2 days. That's the reason why I like using a refrigerator. It's fantastic. So now I can bring this up to temp and let the spices start to infuse in the wine. Christmas wine is doing wonderfully. It smells fantastic. Now I'm going to add a locally grown orange to the mix. So I'm going to split this in half and put it in the wine. This is December 18th. And this is what the wine looks like. You can see the raisins and all that in there. So thank you for watching our part 2 of this Christmas wine episode. I don't know if I've actually said this or not, but one of the issues I'm having with this wine right now is that there is a distinct odor. You get that with fermented products. Sometimes, especially new wines, will have funky odors. Some people describe it as foot. Some people describe it as cheese. There's a bunch of different aromas that you'll get out of a wine. And this one, before I put the orange in it, all those odors went away. And then as soon as I put the orange in, it was back with a vengeance. I'm gonna wait, see how this works. I may let this sit. If I let it sit, I'll let you know. And then we'll bottle it and we'll do something after Christmas. I may let it rack. If I rack it and bottle it, I'll show that. Racking just means I've bottled it and I'm just letting it sit. And so a lot of wines taste better with age. This may not be a new wine. This may be a wine that I have to set until next year. If it is, I'll let you know. But we'll do a tasting anyway, just to let you know how it tastes right now. And then we may do a tasting in a year, because I'm definitely going to save this and bottle it for next Christmas. But if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can get alerted to new content. And I wish you and your family the merriest of Christmases and a Happy New Year. Goodbye.